One second. I'm just waiting the notification.
Yes, sir.
And boom. Just like that. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us, one who was humbled and honored, would take time out of her busy schedule to give us some information as well as some inspiration. And that is none other than Sister Captain Charlene Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. And the first thing we want to know is you seem very quiet. So even though I've been in Atlanta for quite some time, you don't really talk about your journey and everything. You just give us the greetings and you have a happy spirit. But I've never had a conversation with you about this, so I'm looking forward to this. When did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I first heard the teachings of Muhammad. Actually, my husband, Brother Steve, who was an upholsterer, he met this brother Joseph X. Moultrie in Boston. We were in Boston.
Okay.
And Brother Joseph was an upholsterer as well. And my husband would always go to his shop, the upholstery shop, and Brother Joseph, because he was in the nation prior to 75, and he was always telling my husband about this, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, talking about the nation, talking about these teachings, and talking about the Black man and Minister Farrakhan, Brother Farrakhan, as he said. And so he was telling my husband about it. So my husband would come home and he would tell me about it. And of course, I didn't, at the time, we were studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, so I really didn't want to hear it. So, because I was quite comfortable where I was at. So he could still continue to go back with Brother Joseph at the upholstery shop. And Brother Joseph, as we were learning things with the Jehovah's Witnesses about certain aspects of their teaching and their view on things, he would go back and say that Brother Joseph, well, they're saying that, we talked about the God being a man and Jesus being Black, and they weren't teaching it, they weren't saying that. And so it was like Brother Joseph would go back and say, okay, well, he would tell my husband the things that go back and ask them about this, ask them about that. And my husband would do that. So as time went on, we were looking and we noticed that, as we're getting all this Black man teaching and, do for self and lost found people and the Black, how we just lost us, we were getting all of this. So we started noticing with the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, we looked at their watchtower, wasn't Black people on the cover? They were just all white people. There were no Black people on the higher echelons of that. I mean, we were nowhere to be found. So Brother Joseph had told my husband that, because he was telling about Brother Farrakhan, he had told my husband that, okay, well, Brother Farrakhan to be here, would you come and hear him for yourself? So that particular year, and this was in early 79, 80s, that particular year, Brother Minister Farrakhan, he had came to UMass, University of Massachusetts, and my husband went there to hear them. And so later that day, Minister Farrakhan also spoke at Alma Lewis. So my husband came back and told myself and my sister-in-law, Sister Shirley in Birmingham, told us he wanted us to come and hear him. So we went to Boston, we went to, not Boston Tech, we went to Alma Lewis and we heard Minister Farrakhan, and it was just so electrifying. So, I mean, so we started, listening, and it was just really electrifying for us. It's something we hadn't heard. So then after that time, Alma Lewis, when we were there, Minister Farrakhan asked, well, how many want us to have study groups in the city? So we raised our hand, of course, and had study groups. So the next time we had that, when we had the first study group, Brother Larry, which is Brother Akbar now, he came and he did the study group at Alma Lewis. And then from that point, we started having study groups at Sister Doris's house. Sister Doris, which is now Sister Karima, she's in Memphis, Tennessee. But we started having study group at her house. And we would have they would have like those who were in the nation and older ones in the nation, not old in age, but when the nation in the first, they would have a separate study group in the same house. And the new ones, which was us, we would have a separate study group, either upstairs or downstairs. I don't remember for sure. So we would go to Sister Doris's house, Sister Karima's house, and have study. And it was so warm and inviting. We were teaching the message. We would out message to the Black man and studying that. And she would have that beautiful egg coffee for us. And it was just a warm, inviting spirit. So at the time, I didn't know that this was the rebuilding as the minister standing back up. And this was the rebuilding process as we were going through these study groups. So that was my first time experience, my introductions to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Praise be to Allah.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. And how did your family and friends feel about you accepting the teachings?
Well, my family, I mean, for the most part, there was no problem. They had no problem with it, accepting the teachings. And the only thing that I would say, because first of all, we weren't heavy church goers, or we weren't heavy into Jesus, or we weren't heavy Christians like that anyway. So really what they had to compare to was the change in me. So, but the biggest thing was, I mean, like I said, we would go to church on Easter Sunday, and then we would taught to say grace before you eat. We would taught the Lord's Prayer and to say your prayers before you go to bed. But outside of that, it was just on Sunday, Easter Sunday, we would go to church, and for the most part, it was all about getting a new outfit. So we would go to church, and so the biggest thing for my family was the Christmas thing. Now, and it was my father. He couldn't understand why I would not let my oldest daughter, Ladina, have Christmas. You had Christmas, you had toys. Why can't she have Christmas? And so we just wasn't going to do Christmas because we understood what Christmas was all about. And he was just looking at it from when we were young, and then he would let us have Christmas and all of that. So it was just the joy of a child's life, and not understanding that Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus and,
Yes,
and Santa Claus and all that. So he would have my daughter, she would go to my sister's house around my nieces and nephews, and they celebrated Christmas. So wasn't no tree up in our house. So they celebrated Christmas. And what he would do would have my daughter to write out her list of the things that she want. And he would go behind my back and let her get the Christmas toys for her. Now I wasn't gonna fall out with my father about the Christmas toys. So, that was it. That's what he wanted to do. He said, well, okay, I'm not gonna badger you about it. I'll just do it this way. So that was the only thing that with my family and that. And I honestly think that really with them, it was that they saw the change in me. And that's why and it wasn't no fight or no, why you with the Muslims or why you this, because they saw the change in me from what I was before I had Islam. So I think that's what really, eased everything out. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be
Beautiful.
to Allah. Yes, sir.
So now, when you're in Boston, um, the Most High Minister was Farrakhan. He's walking around. What are your interactions with him before there was an E-team, before there was security and all that? What were your interactions like?
Well, when we was in Boston, it was very we to be around the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. Now, so the experience, if you came when he came around, I didn't have an up close and personal. I was always on the perimeter and seeing him, and the mosque was so small, and the mosque was so small and so tight that you could just be, he could be on the roster and you could be right there sitting. So it was that that it was just that close. But I want to say that, so that experience was a beautiful experience in that we were in close quarters, but I didn't have that interaction. And I just want to go back to when I first accepted the teachings, because going back to when we were having the study groups and Sister Doris's home, well, at some point, the minister came and he named Brother Don, Minister Don, the minister of the city. So at that point, we had to come up. We all came up under Brother Minister Don, and then from that point, we started working and building. We started meeting. We met. The last place was the Shelbourne Center. So what Minister Don would do, he would teach. We would invite people to come and hear the teaching and all of those kinds of things that we did in this rebuilding process. And in that, Sister Shirley, Brother Don's wife, Sister
Yes, ma'am.
Shirley Muhammad, she was the one. She was the one that took care of the women. The women. She taught us and trained us. It was just a small group of us, and we didn't have captains, lieutenant, because we were just smaller. But she taught us, it was the setting up of the post. And she taught us as women that, the women, the nation can rise no higher than its women. And she taught us so much of the class and trained us. It was a few of us there. I don't want to name a bunch of names because I forget somebody and then I want to see that. But they know who they are. So it was a few of us there. And Sister Shirley Muhammad, she really, because she was one of the ones that were there and was there in the first, when the messenger was among us. So she knew how to set up everything. She knew how to train the women because that's what she did. And that's what she did. So through that, she laid that foundation for us, coming once we stood back up and brought us back into that fold. And I thank Allah so much for her and so much for what, praise be to Allah, for what she has done and the shoulders that I stand on with Sister Muhammad. And I know so many of the sisters in Boston do. But getting back to being around Minister Farrakhan, now my first like close-up experience, and I have to go back to Boston because these again memories, pleasant memories. But my son Jamal, he was about 6 months old. So the minister came and spoke at the mosque. And after the mosque, we had an opportunity to greet him. And
Mm.
so I had my son, and a few of us were around, my husband, a few of us were around, and I had my son in my arms, and the minister took my son and he held him up like I can think of roots. Behold, the only thing greater than you. And it was just so beautiful. And it was like my son was blessed. He was blessed. So that was beautiful. And then another encounter that I had with the minister, and these are just moments of precious moments that my children would know, was my daughter, my youngest daughter, Ataya. So she was about almost 5 months old. And the minister, I was the captain, and the minister called us, all of the laborers, to headquarters to Chicago. So I had to bring my baby with me. So we went up there, and the sister called that thing. She told me, she said, I don't think we ever had a baby in the palace. I don't think we ever had a baby.
Mm.
So after we got finished eating and everything, the minister did a receiving line to receive us. And I was in line with my daughter, and it was my turn up. And he saw me standing. He said, "Bring that baby over here." And he took a tie over the head and just blessed over her head. So my children were very blessed in that aspect, to be in that presence close up and for him to lay hands on him. And it was just a beautiful thing. And then there was a time when I was able to be up close and personal with him. There was no formal introduction, but we during our tenure, and brother Jamil was the minister at that time. Your Uncle Chip, he was
Yes,
the
ma'am.
minister at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
And we had given the sisters in the southern region had given the minister some gifts. We had gifts to bring, the beautiful, and they allowed us to come and present them to him in the hotel. And that was just so up and close personal. So I did get an opportunity to get some pictures of that. But it was beautiful. It was just a beautiful experience to be around the minister. And it's just that, when you're around him, you just know the presence of eminence, because you can just feel it, and you just have to contain yourself, and you don't want to, say you don't want to be like you're so close to the sun, and you take advantage of the opportunity of what you're being around, to understand who you're in the presence of. So it was beautiful, and those were my beautiful experiences being around the minister.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And thank you for your honesty and your transparency. And people are giving you the greetings. Sister, I don't know, butcher your name, Sister Sabora and Sister Ladia Muha says, Allah Akbar, never forget where we come from. That's her, you are her auntie. Praise be to Allah. Beautiful.
Praise be to Allah.
And I want to make sure that I thank you on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast for your sacrifice, ma'am, and the sacrifice of your family. For we are grateful, eternally grateful for the work that you put in, that we can stand on your shoulders by the grace of Allah.
Thank you, sir. Praise be
Yes,
to
ma'am.
Allah.
And I wanted to ask you, okay, so as a drill instructor, somebody who loves drill, there was a drill competition that me and my siblings would watch all the time. And one time you came out with the Vanguard and you did a salute and everybody went crazy. We came out with Sister Ava. how did that come about? And do do you like drill, or is that just like a one time thing?
Okay, so how that came about is a sister, then Captain LaShonda, now New
Mm-hmm.
Saber,
Mm-hmm.
as the drill instructor. She always comes up with these ideas for drill. No, I don't like drill. I was not. Not that I don't like drill. I'm not a driller.
Yes,
That is
ma'am.
not something I can. But what happened? How this came about? Because so let me go back to Sister Ava, because Sister Ava, she in history making, she was the first female woman, excuse me, the first woman that was appointed over a mosque,
Mm.
and not just the Nation of Islam, but in the world. The minister put it there. So praise be to Allah. And I was blessed to be in the position to be her captain.
Mm.
So what had happened was, and she's such a beautiful sister, powerful, powerful sister in her presence. And she brought a lot of governance to us and just a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge. And it's, I mean, her whole spirit, her whole aura for us, it was beautiful. So with that, Sister LaShonda, making his, excuse me, Sister Captain New Saber now, with making history, she wanted to have the first uh, female minister in the Nation of Islam and her captain to drill together. That was a history making video, a
Yes,
history
ma'am.
making drill thing. That's
Absolutely.
how, right, that's how that came about. Not because I nor Sister Ava wanted to drill, but it was for history so that we could record history. So we knew that that would help in that manner. So we agreed to do it.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. We
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for that. Now, being that she was the first sister captain, sister minister over a mosque period, and you were her sister captain, were you were you nervous for her? And how did you handle that? Like, how did you handle being like, being in charge of her, like not just her security, but her, her energy? How did you handle that?
Well, I wasn't nervous for as far as her security was concerned. The Vanguard under Sister Captain Lashonda Nusaba, forgive me if I keep going to Lashonda because I'm going back to when it was.
Yes, ma'am.
But of course, they was in charge of the security. I was overall, and then you have the FOI, of course, in charge of security. But handling her, I mean, it was just to have a female on the laboring staff after all these times. I mean, there was one sister secretary, Sister Carolyn, she was a secretary, but for the most part, because I served through 4 different administrations
Mm,
as a captain.
mm,
So when sister Minister Ava came, it was such a joy and a jail, and it brought to we really communicated well. We got along well. I mean, she was my minister, and she says I was her captain, and that's how we look at each other now. But because it was all about the women, because I knew that what she brought wasn't just about the ministry, but it was about the women, for the women to see, this woman over a mosque and handling a region. And
mm.
this never has been going in history. This was history making. So I was there to support her and what she was doing. And I loved it. I loved it and I loved her and what she brought to this. And the women loved her. I mean, because we had something that we could say, oh, this woman that we can look up and say this could be, now this is groundbreaking for us, because now women can go into the ministry. Now women can be over there. Are women now throughout the nation who are over mosques, over study groups. So there are students. So it was just so groundbreaking to be a part of that. And that, to have Sister Ava to do it, because she was so humble and kind and the spirit and knowledgeable, and to bring all of that and teaching the women, it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful experience for me. And I know for the MGT here in the southern region, and I know that because they shared that a lot. But it was difficult. What I would say, and because since we're dealing with history and some of that, because she was the first woman to become a minister over a mosque, so then you have that aspect of the brotherhood. How did they handle that?
Yes, ma'am.
How did they handle that? How
Yes,
did
ma'am.
they make that adjustment? So some of them, and I'm not, and I'm only saying this not because we had a conversation about it. We didn't, but I can say there was a lot of disappearing acts that happened.
Mm,
That,
mm,
whereas they were there and strong. And for others, you know, you could just tell, you know, it was something that they had to make an adjustment to because it was new for them. And I understood, we understood that it was
Yes,
new
ma'am.
for them, never having a woman over them, never having a woman to tell them, you know, what to do. You know, so it was, there was adjustment that has to be made. So I think that she broke that ice with that. So now the sisters who are ministers, and the brothers are more, because this is now the norm. They can accept that better. So I'll just put that out. But it was a beautiful experience.
Praise be to Allah. And once again, thank you all in the comments. My sister Miriam sends the greetings. So many people are showing you love in the comments. Thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube as well. My next question for you, Sister Captain, is being from Boston to Atlanta, has there ever been a time where you faced fear? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
As far as being in the nation,
Or in life, nation or in life? Just have you ever faced fear and have you had to overcome it?
well, I mean, I I face fears. I have to pray. You
Mm,
know, I have to pray whenever it comes up. That's the first thing. The first thought is Allah. Oh Allah. You
yes,
know,
ma'am.
oh Allah, because I know without Allah, He's the only one. He's the only reality, the only one
Yes,
that
ma'am.
can help me to face fear and help me to get out. So that's my first thought, is to, oh Allah, help me. How do I? Then I start thinking in my mind, you know, as to, because you take steps towards, He takes steps towards you, you take steps towards Him. So if He presents me with a way to deal with the fear, then I try to be open to receive how that is, and that's basically how I face the fear.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Well, the Million Man March, what was the climate like for you being assistant captain during the Million Man March, that time period? And how did it impact you as a sister?
Well, the Million Man March, now that was phenomenal, because we never, I mean, to say a Million Man March and it be over 2 million men, that was phenomenal. Never experienced that. But that whole atmosphere, and why, because there was a buildup to get the brothers. So as minister traveled through the country, you know, talking to LOC, talking to everyone, build it up, and it came to so many cities, and to see the brothers gathering and enthused about all of that, and to receive the message and what the minister was saying, to, you know, the atonement, to have us atone, to make them be better father, and just to see so many men, you know, to really buy into that, because it was a buildup. But it was beautiful in the sense that, okay, the sisters couldn't come, but as a sister captain, we had to go and prepare for the dignitaries, guests at the hotels
Okay,
and different
okay,
things like that.
okay.
So I was able to be in the atmosphere in that sense, that I was
Mm,
in the city. And
mm.
I was able to be a part of that. But it was really beautiful, and another history making thing that would stay with us. But to see the men, you know, as they loaded up on the buses, and, you know, because we had send offs for the brothers, to see them on the buses, and really, and their children, and some of them had their young sons, and just to see how they gathered, and they were enthused to want to go, be able to want to go to this Million Man Mile, and to hear what Min Farrakhan had to say, you know, to be alive and witness that. It was really beautiful, and it was really heartwarming and heartfelt, and just to see my husband go off, you know, it was just really beautiful.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Excellent. And thank you all again in the comments. My next question for you is, what advice would you give to future captains, future sisters who want to go into to be a captain?
The advice that I would give, for anyone that wanted to be a captain or a officer or whatever, is to understand what it is that you're going to get into. Understand what is required of you, because a lot of times we might see the post as glamorous. You know, you got your sharp uniform on, your left, right flank, and you salute, and you all of that, and you got people under you, and, you know, you can got a little authority where you can give instructions and things like that. So understand that there's more to it than that, and really kind of inquire, if when you're asked, or if you're asked to be an officer or a captain, ask, well, what is expected of me? What does this entail? What am I supposed to do? And of course, if you're married, you have to consult with your husband as to taking these posts. And So I would just say to really understand what it is that you're doing. Exclude the emotional aspect of it, maybe because it's glitz and glam and it looks good. And, I like that uniform with the bars and stripes and not like that. That'll look good on me. And I get me. Understand what it is that you're really saying that you want to be in, because that's going to make a difference in how you approach your job and your responsibility.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And what about Mother Farrakhan? I often ask the brothers about how the minister impacts them, but as a sister, how has Mother Farrakhan impacted you?
Mother Farrakhan, I'm going to say this because I'm going back to Sister Shirley, Sister Muhammad. We affectionately called her Sister Muhammad. So
Mm,
I'm going back to Sister Muhammad when we were in Boston. So Sister Shirley and Mother Farrakhan, they were companions. So
mm,
sometimes Sister Mother Farrakhan would come to Boston because, of course, she had family there as well. But she would come to Boston and she would be also spend time with Sister Muhammad. And Sister Muhammad would allow some of us to be around and be in her atmosphere so that we can just sit with her. And so I remember some of the times that had happened. And she said, Mother Farrakhan is just she's so real and just so, it's not like you would look at someone that, is just out of reach on a spook mentality that you just can't, to glow in the heaven that you put up on a pedestal, and not that she shouldn't be on a pedestal. I'm not saying that. But
mm.
you think about people like that, but she was so real and so genuine, and to be around her, and she loved the sisterhood. She would talk about dressing the sisters, and making that. So out of that came that when she would come to Boston, she always looked so beautiful. So being around her, and that to be able to see her in that atmosphere, and that small setting that Sister Muhammad allowed us to be in, I really got to see a look of her that what I and thought that maybe that she did well. I really didn't know. I shouldn't say maybe. I really didn't know, but I got to see her side, and she's so real and so down and beautiful. And she has a beautiful spirit. She has such a beautiful spirit, a beautiful aura. You know how some people are, uh, they have an aura that's just not approachable.
Mm,
That's just
mm,
not approachable. But that's not her. She's just loving and warming, and she loved the women in the sisterhood. And I could tell that just from being in the presence during that time and the conversations that we have. So it impacted me. It impacted my life as an MGT, because I always look to that as I can reflect back on how we used to dress
mm,
as
mm,
women,
mm,
and
mm.
even coming into the mosque. I'm even coming to the mosque because we'd have scarves tied around our heads, and things like that, and that wasn't the way that we were to dress. And she brought all that to the modern time, and she dressed us, and we're so beautiful now with our garments and clothes, and it's a reflection of her, because look at how beautiful she is. So that what she gave. So that's what I would have to say about Mother Farrakhan, and the regalness that she has. It's just beautiful.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And Sister Captain, thank you once again. I got a quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast, and we're coming right back to our Sister Captain. Hold on 1 second. And thank everybody for watching. Continue to watch the People's Podcast on YouTube. Um, every like, every share, everything means something. So we are great. We eternally grateful for everybody. Hold on, Sister Captain. Here we go. Boom. All right. I want to thank. Here we go. Boom. If you all would like to be a sponsor or donor of the People's Podcast, please cash app the sign $sign the People's Podcast. My brother Rashad, Street Premiere Media Production. He has a 4K camera, a drone, and they do television and film editing. Thank you very much for Street Premiere. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book, both of which are on Amazon. Make sure you all go get that. My sister Naima teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. We love our tiny dancers. Also, Nations Auto Sales, LLC in St. Louis, Missouri. The brother does an excellent job of shipping cars all across the country. The Engineers of Tomorrow, LLC, which is a STEM preschool. They're doing a great job out of Dallas, Texas. Thank you very much for your support and your sponsorship. MTS Car Bros, any make, model, any year, 30 to 50% out of Los Angeles. They'll ship cars to you all across the country as well. Raising Black Millionaires, Sister Tia Muhammad. She teaches economic empowerment and development through flashcards. We thank you very much. I'm coming right back to you, Sister Captain, and thank you all for watching the People's Podcast. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you all across the country and does an amazing job. Brother Chantel X, the X and Express. He pays truck drivers weekly. And boom, thank you very much. I see all of the comments. Our sister Latasha Muhammad out of Indianapolis, Queen is I Poetry and Apparel. She does a great job. Queen is I Poetry and Apparel. Right out of Atlanta, Georgia. Sister Betty Muhammad with the nursing cream. She does a great job being on the front line with all of the nurses. Thank you very much. Coming right back to the captain, Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you need some turkey legs, reach out to Dr. Carter. Brother Rashad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services in Chicago. My father's book, Soldier in the Movement of Christ, abdulsharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are on Amazon. Thank you all very much to all of the supporters, sponsors, and people like Sister Lovett that always show love in the comments. Boom. Sister Captain, we're right back to you. What has been your greatest trial in your tenure in the nation, and how have you overcome that trial?
I'm gonna say my greatest trial, I would say, when I transitioned from Boston to Atlanta, and I put this in. So when after being in Boston and working there, we finally worked our way up to where, when I say we, I'm speaking about me and my sister-in-law, Sister Shirley Muhammad out of Birmingham. So we worked our way up to where we were officers. So when we first came in, we were doing it, rebuilding, and we were just, there were no titles, there was nothing, because it really wasn't, we were rebuilding, really some people there. So when we got our mosque, and at that time there was temple number 11. So when we got the mosque and we was in there, and as more people came, and Sister Shirley was the captain, so myself and my sister-in-law, Sister Shirley, we became lieutenants. So, and we stayed there. I stayed in that post probably about 6, I'm going to say 7 years. It could be more, I'm a little fuzzy. But then we moved to Atlanta. My husband and I moved to Atlanta, and our family moved to Atlanta. And at this time, I had my young son, Jamal. And we were just coming back here and trying to make the adjustment. So what happened was, after we did a couple of years, brother Van had asked me to be the MGT captain. There was a changing of the guard. And so I didn't want to be the captain. I didn't want to be, because I thought that when I would come down here that, I would chill a little bit, after, being an officer, that I would just chill a little bit and kind of like, do my mother thing and, that kind of thing, because we soldiered in Boston. So I thought this was a little break for me. So I was trying to run. So that was a trial for me, because I was wrestling with it, because you feel like you running away from responsibility and that kind of thing. So I'm telling you how I overcame it, because Brother Van kept asking me, and I kept saying no. I didn't want to, because I understand that. I understand that someone had recommended me. I don't remember who he said it was. And I didn't know. I didn't know. I just didn't know. I was saying no, 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 all the way up until the time I was telling my husband what happened. But they told me that Sister National Captain at the time, Sister National Captain Charlene, she was coming to Atlanta, and she wanted to meet with me. And so I knew what she wanted, because the van had been asking. So I knew what she wanted. So when I left the house that day, I told my husband, I said, well, no, I'm going to say no, because I don't want to do it. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. So when I got to the mosque, and I went into the office with Sister Charlene, Sister National Captain Charlene was, and opened the door, And there was Sister Captain Shirley. So
Mm.
I know they had brought the big guns out on me. So I was like, oh no. So then I saw Sister Shirley, and we was talking, and she was telling me, because she told me that, you know, you were made for this. You have to help this. You have to help the sisterhood. You have to help the sisters. She talked about how you know, how she had trained me, and it was like to show me that where I was being prepared for this. And I was like, you know, well, I think I did that. You know, I did something in Boston, you know. So, but she was telling me how I was being prepared for that. And I could see that looking back, but as she told me that, I was like, huh. And then when she said to me, she said, the sisters need you. She said, the
Mm.
sisters need you. And you were trained for this, and you were made for this. And how can I say no, Brother Josh? I just, you know, because the person who had trained me, you know,
Yes,
she
ma'am.
had trained me through that. So she knew what she had put in me.
Mm,
So I
mm,
couldn't
mm,
I couldn't say no. So after I said, okay, I said yes. And then we came out of the office, and I saw my husband. They were rushing me off in the car, you know, because you know, you once you do that, then you come here comes security, and you know. And I saw my husband. I got in the car, and I said to him, I said yes, and he was like, "What?" I said, because he knew I was adamant that I said no. But that's how that. So that was, I think, my biggest trial that I can just remember, and as far as the nation is concerned. But the other things, you know. But that was my biggest trial, and you know, Sister Shirley was there again, there to help me get through it. Yes, sir.
beautiful. Praise be to Allah. What has been your greatest joy in your tenure in the nation?
Well, my greatest joy, of course, is my children.
Mm,
My greatest joy. To be able to give them Islam. That has been my greatest joy. You know, that just sticks right out there at front. You know, aside from, you know, being a part of this and being able to be in the presence of the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, my in the nation, as far as the nation, but to be able to raise my children in Islam, that's a great joy.
excellent. And speaking of your children, what advice would you give to future mothers?
The mothers, okay. So what I would say to future mothers is, you know, there's a such thing as family planning, and
Mm,
family planning doesn't necessarily mean that the woman is taking birth control or using birth control devices to keep from having children. Family planning means that you, if this is what you want to do to be a mother, then you need to plan that out, you know, so that there will be some surprises, but those that you can avoid and you can handle on the front end, you want to do that. So be patient and plan out. So you want to have a family, you want to be a mother. Okay, so you just got married. What does that look like? Does that look like 2 years from now? Does that look like 4 years from now? Talk to your
mm,
husband. You know,
mm, mm, mm,
how is our financial situation? You know, how is that going to affect me? What am I doing right now? What am I trying to accomplish before I actually have children? Because you know, once you have the children, then that's another dynamic of your life that you would have to make adjustments for. So you just plan, I would say plan it out and make sure that you plan it, and so as to when you're ready for it, you're ready for it.
beautiful. Praise be to Allah. What advice would you give to future wives?
Future wives, now I'm gonna say for the future wives, I'm gonna say study the subject. And what I
Mm,
mean about study the subject is study marriage. What is marriage? What does marriage mean? What is
mm,
required of you in a marriage? So you want to make sure, it's just like if you want to be a doctor, a nurse, or whatever. So you want to be a wife, if you want to be a doctor, nurse, lawyer, whatever profession, there's books and this thing that you study the subject. Same thing with marriage. Study that subject so that you know what is required and what is expected of you, because you may not, that may help you to say, okay, well, maybe at this point I'm not ready yet. But you want to study it. I mean, the minister has all kind of books, keys to successful marriage. I mean, you got domestic violence, we got how to give birth to a God. There's so much material. So you want to avail yourself of the material that is around, so that will help you in making those decisions that you want to make. we weren't taught the art of mating. We weren't taught that. So, but we do have information around from the minister. We have information around that will help us to get that. So it's like anything else. It's your approach to a thing. Approach it like, you approach and study. I'm going like you going to school and you want to get that degree. Then you approach it with that in mind, that as marriage is a subject in life. So I look at that and I see what is required, what it takes me to get that first degree or second degree or whatever it is. So I would just say approach it in that manner.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And what do you do for fun, ma'am?
Well, what I like to do is I like to travel.
Okay. Okay.
I like to travel, but we had the pandemic, so that's on hold. But
Yes, ma'am.
other than that, I like to spend time with my family. I like us to do family to watch old videos of the children when they were smaller, younger,
Yes,
look at
ma'am.
pictures, play board games. I like for myself, I like to do puzzles, draw the little drawing, pencil drawing. I can
Yes,
do
ma'am.
those things for outlet. And I like music, just relaxing. So that for the most part, that's what I like to do for fun.
Okay, great. And what type of music do you like?
Well, Josh, I can't name a whole lot of a lot of these different artists that they have now. There's some songs that like, I like back in the old school
Yes,
days.
ma'am.
I like Smokey Robinson, I
Okay.
like
Okay.
Van Ross, Barry White,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
OJ, the
Okay.
Dell, the
Okay.
Onyx, the Stylistics. There are some songs up to date that I like, but I couldn't tell you who was singing them. So I'm not into that, but there are some that I like in that, in that manner. So Gladys Knight and all of those kind of things.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So shout out to the Motown era. Beautiful.
Yes,
Great.
sir. Absolutely.
Great
Yes, sir.
time. Will you ever write a book on your personal life?
No, I never thought about it. I never thought about it. Never say never, but it's just something that I never thought about it. And my father would always tell me, because this is what I did for my father. My father, he's passed. We he transitioned in 2014, and while he was alive, he would always tell us about different things for the recorded for history. And so what I did with him, I would follow him around when I would go to visit him in Boston, and I have a tape recorder, and I have him tape, and he would just talk and tape. I would ask him questions about it's basically an interview about the childhood, and then so. With that being said, now I have a recorded word of his voice. I have a book, but I have a recorded word of his voice, and he had taught me the importance of knowing that, because he said, ask me questions now, because when I'm gone, I won't be able to give you no answers. So
Mm, mm.
we would be able to record stuff. Yes, sir. So I never thought about writing a book. So I would never say that I would never, but I certainly never thought about it.
Yes, ma'am. And may I have your parents' name? What are your parents' names?
My father's name was Charles, and both of my parents are deceased.
Yes,
His
ma'am.
name was Charles, and my mother's name was Bessie, and they're
Okay, yes, ma'am.
both deceased. Yes, sir.
May Allah be pleased. What would you like your legacy to be, ma'am?
That she was an example of a captain that when she was no longer a captain, no longer holding a post, that she backed and supported the new captain, not just with words, but with works. And that she understood that there were sisters that were looking to her to see what she would do. And she
Mm,
also understood that it was a greater cause bigger than herself. And also, I agreed to do this interview for my children, because I want my children, and for the record, because I want my children to know the greatest gift that I have ever given them is Islam. Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful, Sister Captain. Yes, ma'am. Excellent. I'm just very fascinated that as long as I've been in Atlanta, this is the longest that me and you have talked.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're right. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Well, you
are
always
right.
busy. Yes, ma'am. Well, I love you and your family, Sister Captain. May Allah continue to bless you all and to continue to do great things. I thank you for your sacrifice and just your great spirit. You're always kind to me and my family and to the believers. And shout out to your children. And are you a grandmother?
Yes, I am.
Yes, ma'am. Shout out to your
Yes, I
grandmother.
am a grandmother. I have my Samaya, and don't get me, Ladina, I think she's 7. And then, Sister Arfon's children,
Yes, ma'am.
4. And then my other son, Shalom, he has 5. Or he has 5. Arfon has 4. And then my daughter, Ladina, has 1. So that makes 10.
Mm.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful.
And
Well,
I have 2, and I have 2 left. I have 2 children that still, I have 2 children left that still will be able to produce children, Allah willing.
okay, great, great. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
sir.
We look
Yes,
forward to
sir.
that. Well, hold on, I'm saying my sister Miriam says that's powerful, so true, and Sister Ladina says yes, that is the greatest gift. Alhamdulillah. Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you again, Sister Captain, for your sacrifice and just man, your spirit, and I'm assuming that's your daughter, Ladina. And so,
Yes,
thank you,
sir. Yes, sir.
thank you all as well. Your mom's is an OG, and you always hold it down, always on your post. So I respect that. Thank you. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. And this means so much to me, Sister Captain, that you would take time out of your busy schedule to come talk to us.
It means so much to me that you would ask me.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Assalamu
Praise be
alaikum.
to Allah. Wa alaikum salam.
And this is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off from the People's Podcast. Thank you all for watching.